Hello, welcome to the Lunch and Chat with Leslie broadcast. I'm your host, Leslie Parker. It is an honor, as always, to be able to stream informative, educational, and entertaining segments to you every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Again, as I mentioned to you, this is a new talk show. Although the talk show has been on for over a year, it is still new and it is developing. And to God be the glory that He's allowed me to do it, if not every Tuesday, but most of the Tuesdays out of the month. I put it together, believe it or not, for you and the community. You see, God spoke to me last year in 2020 when we all were going through COVID, and we're still in COVID. But I know that I had to at least use my voice and my connection and my connective spirit that I have with God to share with you about some things, to keep you informed, to entertain you, whatever it is. But tonight's broadcast, I will discuss the cycles of pain and the 12 inspirational keys to help you get through it. I guess you're wondering, when did Leslie get her certification on grief? And is she qualified to talk about it? Well, you know, we all have experienced some form of grief in our lives, and we can share what it felt like. We can share what it felt like, to other people and how we were able to get through it. So we are all qualified to talk about grief, and we don't need a degree to speak from things from our heart. At least we can rely on each other for support, encouragement, and healing. June of 2020, I did a segment on grief. And that was the first time I ever did a live segment about my personal struggles with grief and what it did for me. So if you ever want to just look back on some of the previous broadcasts that I did, you can actually just go on the Lunch and Chat with Leslie at Facebook or either YouTube, and you'll be able to look at that segment when it talks about overcoming grief. And where I am today, I'm just so amazed because God has been so good to me. And to be quite honest with you, I really didn't know whether or not I would be able to make it through some of the things that I've been through, not just the grief part, but through the fact that I had lost my job. I got into an accident. So all these things just happened. That's why I was saying the cycles of pain. I wrote a book about it, but it covers different aspects of it. But it's still the same. We go through some cycles of pains in our lives, and we're like that hamster in the wheel. We don't know how to get out of it. So tonight's broadcast, I hope to be able to get you through some of those things that you've been going through for a long time. So the cycles of pain that I will discuss later on, it'll talk about the 12 inspirational keys to help you get through it. But for right now, I just need to personally just come into your heart and just to your mind to find out what you're feeling right now. Do you feel overwhelmed, or have you felt overwhelmed because you have lost someone, or because you have experienced an adversity in your life and you just don't know how to deal with that pain? Well, the pain of losing a loved one, first of all, it can take a toll on you. And with that in mind, it's so important if you have someone to inspire you and to encourage you through the process. So if you notice earlier on, I did a scripture, and it comes from Proverbs 35, I believe. I'm going to correct myself if I'm wrong. But it says, weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. And here I am right now. I'm smiling, I'm rejoicing, I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. And most of all, I lean on this. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. You can't change it. I can't change it. Things that we try to change for ourselves, it's not going to happen. But what we do, we ask God to give us the courage to change the things that we can and the wisdom to know the difference. You see, I didn't know the wisdom. I didn't have it a couple years ago. I didn't know really what process we're to go through, but I'm glad He gives us insight and direction to find out what the wisdom is. So I'm going to cover tonight 5 stages of grief, the 5 types of grief, how you can cope through the grief. And last but not least, I'm going to give you the 12 inspirational keys for emotional, mental, and spiritual healing. How does that sound? All right, so let's start with the 5 stages of grief. All right. So the first stage is denial. It's less about denying the death that happened, but it encompasses feelings of shock, numbness, and disbelief. Then there is anger. You see, anger is described as that directed at the deceased for not taking care of themselves. And it's so crazy. And I had that anger, believe it or not, after my sister passed. I kept saying, I can't believe she did this. Why didn't she take care of herself? I was just going on and on and on. So it's directed at the self for not being able to prevent the death. And that's what we do. You direct it at the doctors, professional caregivers, for not being able to be present to prevent the death. So that's that anger stuff that kicks in. Then there's the bargaining. So let me tell you about the bargaining. What they say, bargaining is described as the desire to go back the way things were before the death. So you try to go back in time to prevent death from happening. But we can't do that because that's not our call. So, but you do start to bargain. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I've done that. So the fourth stage of grief is depression. You see, depression, grievers commonly experience a feeling of emptiness, obviously, intense sadness, withdrawal from life. You feel like it's meaningless in the final stage. So you start feeling, and I remember going through the stage like denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. So before I even knew about the stages of grief, I didn't know what was going on with me. That's why I said sometimes you feel overwhelmed. You don't know where to turn to. Should you go right, left, who you call your pastor, call your friends, lean on to your parents or whomever. You just don't know which direction to go. So that's what depression can do for you. It can truly mess you up mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. But if you're there, of course, there are resources for you. I would recommend that you see someone professionally to help you through the process. I was fortunate enough to find my peace with God and ask him, to help me get through some things. And I'm sure, whatever method that you've used, it probably worked for you as well. And the last stage of grief is acceptance. And not that I accept that I've lost loved ones in my life, but it is about being okay with yourself, that I'm okay. And what a wonderful feeling to know when you're okay. And what happened, and more about accepting the reality that our loved one is no longer with us, but they are still with us in spirit. You understand? Even though they're not physically with us, but they're still with us. All right. Now, then I mentioned to you that I want to talk to you about the types of grief. All right. So there are 5 types of grief. And I'm going to go over each one and give you a little bit of information about each one. Okay. The first one is anticipatory grief. I tell you, this information is very valuable, very informative. So I hope you got a pen and a piece of paper to write this down. But anticipatory grief is expecting loss or change, which can lead to the grief. What we do is, according to this doctor, her name is Robert Hohenstein. She has a PhD. She said we end up essentially experiencing the loss before it even happens. She mentioned that she had, I guess it was this patient of hers that was diagnosed as a child with a disease that kind of, really anticipated that her demise would be sooner than what it would be. But, I always say, God has the final say. That same child, that same person in their childhood that was going through the worration and everything like that, they were anticipating their death pretty much. So, but the person lived to be in their 80s. See what I'm saying? It's amazing. So approaching their actual death as if they were already dead. That's what the anticipatory grief is. But there's a reason people engage in this, according to Dr. Hornstein. She said that for that reason, people engage in this behavior because it provides a sense of control. And anticipatory grief is in our mind and our body way of preparing for the loss. We do this to make the after the loss a bit less intensive. All right, the next grief is called delayed grief. All right, so delayed grief doesn't happen immediately, obviously. Sometimes people aren't in a place to process their loss, according to another author by the name of Stone. She said that because of cognitive and emotional reasons, she knows that such as a young age or in trauma, she often sees delayed grief in clients when they hit points of transition in their life, like at their wedding, at a graduation, or at birth, according to Stone. The type of grief can be overwhelming, it's confusing, it's unwarranted at first, since we don't immediately recognize that we are grieving long ago. We're grieving because of a loss long time ago. Then there is the absent grief. So absent grief, with this grief, it may seem to you or seem to people around you and yourself, if you're not grieving something, you should feel you should be grieving, but your grief doesn't look like it to other people around you. But there can be a lot of reasons for that, for not having your typical response. According to Abera, another author, she said that shock is one of the main reasons. Feeling relief that someone's free from pain, or lack of understanding how to grieve. These can also lead to absent grief. And the other author, as I mentioned to you, Dr. Hornstein, says sometimes it can be linked to already processing their loss, such as an abusive parent or someone who has been ill for a long time. Now, a person might even grieve without realizing it. Many people think of grief as uncontrollable. You may think that you're supposed to be crying, ripping your clothes off, not being able to get out of bed, but it also can be manifested through anger. And I've been there. I don't know about you. I've been angry. I know that once I lost my sister, I noticed that my family and I, we were bickering with one another. Even when I went to work, everything that my supervisor said at the time, I was really just a little on edge about things. She said these aren't the typical grief reactions we see in popular media, but they are what she does see this in her office. Now, this, believe it or not, is probably the experience I'm going through, and I'm still going through it. Inhibited grief. Inhibited grief is usually classified as grief that someone is consciously attempting to quash. And it's spelled Quas, but it's pronounced quash. This can look like someone that's overworking or being excessively busy. Sadly, this does not stop the grief, but what it does is, she gives an example of like having a pebble in you're walking and you got a stone in your shoe, but you don't do anything. You don't pay attention to that stone in your shoe. So what happens with that stone, it causes your feet to blister. So not recognizing that you're going through this type of grief can be harmful and dangerous to you. Then there is disenfranchised grief. This type of grief isn't recognized by our culture, but it can be because people don't think the event is worthy of mourning due to circumstances. For example, you may not be fully and openly ready to mourn the loss of a lover in an extramarital affair, she points out. So it can also be a kind of grief that feels hard to explain. Dr. Hornstein says. She said she literally cried over a death. Now, I thought this was funny, of a long-running TV show. And she felt an acute sense of sadness. She says, but taking off work due to, I guess it's posy, dying on the orange is the new black, might not make sense to others, but it makes sense to her. So I thought that was cute to share with you. She said there are many other situations where loss is not recognized, or you just glazed over by society, what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about coping strategies for different types of grief. All right, I hope you still got your pen ready. Now, coping strategies may differ based on the type of grief or personal experiences, but if someone has experienced a delayed grief reaction because they are in a crisis, then the crisis needs to be addressed first. But there are some general strategies to apply to all the types of grief, according to Dr. Hornstein. Okay, first of all, you got to be kind to yourself. If you notice you're grieving, be compassionate. Allow time to heal. Drop that need that you got to be perfect. Perfection, please throw that out the door. Perfection doesn't mean anything but a bunch of stress. Do not judge your quality of the length of time that you are grieving. So, you hear that saying, people say, well, didn't that happen 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Believe it or not, I lost my girlfriend in high school, but I still grieve the loss of her. But I love her and I will always care for her. So when people tell you, why don't you get over it? You know what I tell them? Well, have you experienced grief yet? Then you get over it. If you haven't experienced, then you need to get over it. So don't you ever, ever, ever tell someone to get over grieving. If you're able to get through your grief your way, that's fine. But don't expect everybody to be put one size fit all. It doesn't fit the same. Then she says you need to practice memorializing. She said it could be cathartic, and healing to create a memorial for the person or thing you've lost. She said, but this may be a letter to you, maybe a letter to you to burn, or just really think about. Like I have a memorial of my sister over here, but I'm cool. I'm okay with that. I like to see her face. I know she's not with me physically, but spiritually she is with me. She also says, Dr. Hornstein says, look out for displaced grief. She said this can be the type of crying over flowers instead of missing someone who has died. She said, allow the grief to lead you where you need to be. Excellent point. Then you have to have signs you should seek for. Now, no one escapes grief, according to Dr. Hornstein, but the process to go through it, the normalcy and necessity for a long time, health can be challenging and it can be painful. So, I'm gonna be honest with you. You will have health challenges. You may not eat the way you should eat or whatever, but you'll be able to get through those things. But know when you need to seek help. And you think you want it. You think you want it. You don't need to be broken, and nothing needs to be wrong with you to seek the help of a professional. Remember that. You don't need to be broken, and you don't have to have anything wrong with you to seek the help of a professional. So think about doing that. And finally, well, it's two more things I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go through the 12 keys of inspirational healing, emotional healing, and then that's it for me. Okay, so your day-to-day routine is suffering. If you are not able to go through the ordinary routine of life, like taking regular showers or showing up for work on time, it's a good idea at that time to seek help. And if you feel prolonged sense of hopelessness, go and seek help. Finally, if you're dealing with a survivor's guilt, reach out to a professional if you experience guilt over being alive or the desire to self-harm yourself. So I've never felt like I wanted to do that, but I did have the survivor's guilt. It's like, why me, Lord? Why am I still here? Well, plain and simple. God spoke to me saying, it's not my time. But whatever he's doing, whatever his mission is for my life, I'm going to definitely take heed of that. So I want to show something to you. So if you give me a second, I'm going to share my screen. And I thought this was worthy to share. So I hope I get it right for you. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you see it? Okay. All right, let me see if I can make it bigger so you can see it. And if you can't see it, what about now? Okay, if you can't see it, I'm going to read it to you. It says, this is something that I had put together, some years ago. It says to breathe the breath of life. What does it feel like to breathe in fresh air? Isn't it refreshing when you do? When it flows through your body, does it feel good when you breathe the breath of life? Like your insides, it feels like your insides have been detailed and clean. So what I want to tell you, if you don't remember anything else, please don't allow the debris of depression, oppression, despair, hatred, malice, jealousy, bitterness, and hopelessness to take residence in your soul. Learn how to appreciate the fresh air that was put in your body at birth. So that was one of the things I wanted to show you. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to go over with you some of the inspirational things, okay? Hopefully I don't need my glasses. But I wrote this in my book and I thought it was appropriate for tonight's broadcast. It says 12 inspirational keys for emotional, mental, and spiritual healing and happiness. The first key is to learn how to release your painful situations in your life. So no matter what it is, it's not always talking about grief or whatever things that you've gone through in your life, and we have gone through different challenges. Maybe it's, it could be communication, it could be something at home, it could be relationship issues, whatever it is. It could be a divorce, whatever it is, those things are definitely worthy of addressing. So just learn how to release those painful things. And I would just recommend that you let other people know that you're in pain. I'm not going to go into each one individually, but I'm going to go through them real quick for you. So number 2, share your heart, your hurt and your pain with people that are supportive and learn to reciprocate. So if there's someone that does not support you, please don't waste your time and share your hurt and pain with them. It's a waste of time. And the key number 3, I'm going to tell you, is to write down your hurt and pain in a journal. See that? I did it. I did it through my book, but I also sometimes throughout the day or whatever, throughout the week or whatever it is, if I'm experiencing anything that's a little overwhelming, I'll write it down and then I'll revisit it. So if you've never written in a journal before, you need to do that. Key number 4, you need to learn to forgive yourself. It is so important. Forgive yourself and even forgive the people that you can't forgive. That's the unforgivable. So when you do that, talk about a healing. Forgiving will help your spirit and emotions, basically. And it will help you change your behavior and the other person's behavior as well. Now, key number 5, what I want you to do is accept who you are and whose you are. Accept who you are. God created you special and in a unique way. So don't try to analyze yourself. Why do I act this way? Why do I look this way? What's going on with me? Just accept your differences. Now, if there's things that you want to change, there's nothing wrong with that. Please, by all means, if it's for the good, go ahead and change it. Key number 6, focus on the things that will help you, and you need to stay away from the things that will destroy you mentally and emotionally. And that's kind of like discovering who you are. Keep your eye on God, and he'll keep his eye on you. You get closer to him, he'll get closer to you, and you'll learn how to embrace life better. Okay, so then we have key number 7. I always say this, to pray and meditate daily. Every morning, whatever you got to do. I'm sure a lot of people was praying when 2020 hit. It was a wake-up call for everybody last year. So don't stop now that, I know the officials are saying, hey, we're all good. Go out there and be yourself again. Be smart about things. Please be safe, but pray and meditate daily. Then key number 6 is to please remove negativity out of your life if you can help it. Anything that try to come against you, to come at you, you have to treat it with a long handle spoon and stay away from it as long as you can. Key number 9, you need to find a place to relax, to unwind, go on a vacation, whatever it is. You need to really take care of your soul. Take care of yourself. I mentioned to you before, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change and the courage to change the things that I can and the wisdom to know the difference. Key number 10, take care of your body, take care of yourself, your temple, everything about it. Changing your diet, the way that you eat, even though, I did good, I was losing weight, then I was like, oh man, that steak looked good, or those cookies look good, but I'm going to get back on track. So pray for me. Okay. So key number 11, live the life that you love and love the life that you live. And finally, trust in the Lord. And I'm going to read this passage to you. It comes from Proverbs 3:5-6. With all your heart, lean not onto your own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. So I don't know about you, but I had a crooked path the last couple years, and I vowed and I made it determined that I was going to make that path straight. And I feel like I'm not there, but I'm almost there, still a couple bumps in the road. So I really hope and truly hope that you have enjoyed this broadcast tonight. It is about cycles of pain, but what to do with the cycles of pain and how to overcome it. And I hope that you will take some of the lessons, some of the things that I've shared with you, and apply it to your own life, and then share it with other people too. But I see I have some comments here. Give me 1 second. Oh, Lisa, hi. I appreciate you too. Thank you. That's always good to know when you tell someone you appreciate them. I do appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you. As always, thank you for your support. Oh, she said, yeah, we need each other. Absolutely. I mean, God didn't put us on this earth to be alone. Even when he said man cannot be alone, why do we leave each other comfortless? Why do we do that with one another? One thing for sure, I will tell you that I will not, no matter where you are, who you are, you don't have to be related to me. I will not leave you. God does not leave us comfortless, but I will never leave anybody, any of my friends or anybody that I don't even have to know them. But if I see that there's a need, I'm going to make sure that I show up. That's just plain and simple. Show up for one another and see how you're going to be blessed. Okay. Oh, I got a clap hand there. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. I appreciate you. And thank you, Simone Scott. Good evening. Thank you so much. I appreciate you showing up. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie, for your sharing your heart. Oh, Julie, thank you. That's all I know how to do, is share my heart. At least I know that, when that time comes that I've done all that I need to do, and I'm just asking God to still work into my life to help me. Thank you so much. Oh, that's right. Life is a team sport, isn't it? It sure is. Very good point. It is a team sport. We are not here alone. And that's why God put the resources in place. He put people in our lives to help us get through some things. So it's just good to know what it is you can do if you need somebody to throw the anchor. So I'm throwing the anchor to you tonight, and I hope that you've enjoyed this segment, and please have a wonderful time today, tomorrow, and the rest of the year. Thanks again for joining the Lunch and Chat with Leslie show. And I will not be on August the 3rd, because August the 3rd is my sister's birthday that passed away. So I will be doing some special things to celebrate the memory of her life, my family and I. So please be patient with me. I will be back on the 11th. Is that the 11th or the 10th? I apologize. I think it's the 10th. I gotta get my days together. But I do thank you. You have a great evening. And thanks again for joining the Lunch and Chat with Leslie show. Take care.